All righty, we're here with our second podcast. I'm here with my dad. It's towards the middle of July in 2019. So welcome, Dad.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Right, so we're gonna have a little conversation here about your life and everything that happened to it. So let's start at the beginning. So born July 3rd, 1948. What's the story about how you were born, where you were born, and all that?
I don't really remember, but I think I was born in Covenant in Waterloo, Iowa. And that's about all I know about it.
No, Grandma and Grandpa didn't have any special stories and anything like that?
No, not that I can remember.
Okay,
no,
all right.
No, pretty simple birth, I guess.
So when you came home, where'd they brought you home to where?
Well, we had a house that
In-
burned down.
in
eventually.
LaPorte,
in
right.
LaPorte City that burned
Okay.
down. My first memory as a kid is when the house fire was. We woke up in the morning and my dad went down the basement and he said, call the fire department. And all I remember is the puzzle on the kitchen table. I don't know if I was putting it together or my mother's putting it together. And we ran to the next door, and next thing I knew, I was looking out the window, and there was fire trucks, and the house burned down.
So you remember how
I
old
couldn't
you
have been more than 4 or 5 years old.
Where in town? You remember in town where you was
I
at?
know the street it's on, but I don't know the name of it. It's by
Okay.
the railroad tracks in north side of town, I think.
Okay.
is
So what were Grandma and Grandpa doing when you were a baby, or even before the house burned down or anything? You remember? Or you know?
My dad painted water towers. I remember that, which is kind of an unusual job. And he always said I always had a job, either construction. I remember him being a milkman. I remember him being a bread man. When we moved to California, they went to the suburbs with one of these vans and sold bread and donuts and everything.
Mhm.
You know, I remember going with him on that. But and from there, I think we moved down across from the swimming pool.
Okay.
You know where the swimming pool is now? That used to be a softball diamond.
Okay.
I remember as a kid, there was always a church league softball. Jubilee, Sacred Heart. I'm sure Gilville and Eagle Center had a church there, but that was always a big thing for me. And I just lived at that softball diamond. That's before they built a high school
Right.
in LaPorte. And then from there,
So when did you mention Grandpa? You guys moved to California. So when and why, or you don't?
I can't remember. It was between the house across from the swimming pool and the house he built on Hillcrest.
Okay.
In that area, that timetable. I don't know. He went out there. My mother got homesick. We lived in Fullerton, California, close to Disney World, close to Anaheim, and my mother got homesick. So we came home, and that's when we started building a house on Hillcrest.
Was when was Tom? Was he alive at that time, or?
See, I wasn't really close. He was 4 years younger than me, and
Okay.
I don't remember us doing too much together. He was
Yeah,
just-
but you don't remember if he was alive when you
No.
moved to California or anything like that.
Yeah, I think he was.
Okay.
I think he was.
Okay.
But that's all I can remember.
Okay. So what's your first school memory?
Kindergarten. They had kindergarten back in those days. I remember my mother dropped me off. I cried and ran around in the front of the school because I didn't want her to leave. That was my
Yep.
first memory. That was pretty traumatic for me.
Right. So that was right there in LaPorte.
LaPorte City. Yeah.
Okay.
There's I think it's an old folks home there now. Where
Okay.
The school is.
Okay. All right. Do you remember some of your old elementary classmate friends or anything like that?
Not so much. No, I'm sure the same like Rick Elliott and Garth Allen and those people, but I don't remember any best friends or
Right.
anything. I just one of those part of your life you went through, and
Right.
I just
Right.
school was I mean it's not good, bad. It wasn't kind of indifferent. You just
Okay.
one of those phases of your life you went through, and when I went to Don Bosco, that was kind of traumatic because my mother ran a drugstore in town. And all the locals thought I should stay in LaPorte. I lived a block from the high school.
Right.
Because I was a pretty good baseball player, and they just thought that was just unheard of. I mean,
Right.
here I get in a bus and drive all the way to Gilville.
Uh-huh.
But back in those days, we had a priest that promoted that, Father Hemisath. He was a priest, and he promoted Don Bosco just got started like in, I think, 54, 56,
Right.
58, something in that area. So he promoted that, and we had probably 6 or 8 kids from LaPorte go to Don Bosco. Then we picked up Mullins on the way,
Okay.
and then we stopped in Washburn and picked up Lumsdums, and the Lumsdum twins.
Yeah.
Then we picked up a Garish on the way to Gilville Road, and that was our bus trip. So
So, going to church. So obviously, Grandma and Grandpa were Catholic, and
my
you
dad
did that
was a
visit.
convert. I
Okay.
didn't know if you knew that.
No, I did not know
He,
that.
he
So,
would not miss a holy day. He would not miss anything.
so
was a
he
convert.
converted to
Catholicism.
Catholicism.
That's right. I used to be an older boy. I'd take my bicycle from where we lived and drive over to the rectory, which they had a little chapel in the basement. And it's always the same four people there at church.
Right.
You know? And so I'd go there, it's 5 days a week, and at the end of the 5 days, Father Helms had to give me 50 cents. That was a big deal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was a big deal.
Right. So,
That was like 7:30 in the morning,
Right.
7:30 in the
Yeah.
morning, and so.
so why? So Grandma Rozier, very Catholic
Mm-hmm.
and everything like that. Then Grandpa, what you know about his upbringing and
Well,
his life, and
See, he was adopted. He doesn't even know who his dad was for sure. And Doc Christopher, which was the veterinarian at that time, you know that house just.
Yep.
I mean, that's where that's where he lived.
okay.
I barely remember that, and he was pretty old at the time. But we go in there and he'd smoke cigars, and he'd always give you a nickel. And I didn't really have grandparents. The only grandparent I remember was my mother's dad, Leonard, or they call him Mose Rozier, retired farmer, lived in Dysart, and he died when he was like 56 years old.
Oh, wow.
So that's all. I didn't have grandparents like kids have these days.
Right.
So this is quite different.
Right. And so Grandpa, just so everyone knows, and because I know a little bit of the family history too, Grandpa married Meg, and his brother also married
Well, it's actually
his
a stepbrother. So we had double, every time there's a reunion, we're all there. Barb and David and Diane.
Right.
We were like double cousins. So every time, it didn't matter what side of the family's on, we were always at the same functions. 'Cause-
Right.
So we grew up together, and they just lived a block away from us. So we grew up together pretty much.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
definitely unusual.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is
it isn't
unusual.
unusual being that
Sisters
close.
married
Right,
brothers.
and they lived right in town too, right on the. I mean,
They
really-
live right across from the swimming pool.
Yeah,
now.
so
That's
I mean,
right.
a block and a half
Yeah.
away, you were
Yeah.
you were seeing your cousins and your aunts and uncles and everything like that, with that too. So, what was you mentioned going to church and hanging out at the softball diamond. Any other memories, vacation stuff like that when you were a kid?
Well,
Remember?
the memories I have as a kid, I had a good childhood. I remember getting up in the morning. Back in those days in LaPorte, you could take off your bike and you could go across town. Everybody in town knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And you come back at noon and eat and take off again. And
Noon whistle, if I remember. I still
one at noon and the 1 o'clock whistle.
Yep.
Both. But I remember pick up baseball games. That's after the pool was built, and between the pool and the high school, we used to have a little baseball diamond. We used to just get everybody in the neighborhood and choose teams and pick up baseball. And we did that almost every morning. And then in the afternoon, it was Pee-wees, midgets, and high school. That's what the thing was.
Mhm.
Then so we'd have Pee-wee practice or games or whatever. And every high school game, I was always at the high school game, either as a bad boy or just there sitting on the bench. So I just grew up with baseball. I just loved it. So those good memories.
Right. So that's during when the weather's nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of when the weather's not that great?
Yeah.
Or in the
That
winter?
hill in front of our house, remember that
Yep.
hill? We used to go out there and slide all day long. We'd get to the top of the hill, we'd pile 2 or 3 on top of each other and go down the hill. And one time it was strictly ice. We went all the way down to the swimming pool. From the top of that hill, that's like 3 blocks.
Right.
You
Yeah.
stopped at the swimming pool.
No cars or anything like that. No one really cared. Yeah.
And I remember building igloos when the snow got real hard.
Uh-huh.
I remember building igloos inside the house, and we had forts, and
Yeah.
we were always outside doing something.
So who were some of the guys you pal around with?
Well,
remember, back
most of
in
the guys I hung out with are older than I were.
Yeah.
Like Dennis Cooper, Berg, Dana Melcher, Bruce Groves. They were all a year older than I was, and there was a Gill. I can't think of his first name. 1 year younger than me, but. It was a little different because I was going to Don Bosco when and all these kids were LaPorte kids,
Right.
so it was just a little
Right.
awkward at that time.
Right. So was it Was it, did you come home and say, I wanted to go to Bosco, or
No,
grandma and
no,
grandpa?
I didn't have any say in it.
You didn't have any say in it, so that wasn't
I
their,
think it was my mother's idea, and like I said, we had a priest that promoted that. He thought it was very important because they were getting the school started. And no, I never regretted going to Don Bosco.
Right.
I don't get, it's just one of those things you go through.
right,
Get
so,
on the bus, and
Yep.
even though you live a block from the high school.
yep, yep. So, any other jobs that you had during your, when you were a kid,
I used
things
to
you
mow
used to
lawns.
do,
I
yeah?
used to mow the church lawn. I'd walk from our place, which is on the north side of town, all the way across the bridge, all the way through town, and mow the church lawn. That took about 4 hours. Then he had a couple more lawns I mowed. And then when I was old enough, I worked in the drugstore. My mother used to be a drugstore, the pharmacy left, so my mother bought it. It was a sundry store.
Yep.
Could sell drugs, but they had, milkshakes and nickel cherry cokes and
Okay.
malts and
Yep.
everything else. So I was a soda jerk.
What was the name? What was
Corner sundries.
a quarter? Okay. And you're a soda jerk?
Well, yeah, that's what they call people who work those.
Okay.
Those soda jerk. Make sure you put soda in front of that.
Yeah.
So I did that all through
Right,
high school.
yeah. And Grandpa, what was he doing?
I think he was at Deers at that time.
Okay.
But Grandpa he had a tavern. He had 2 taverns in LaPorte. I remember as a kid, I'd go in on Sunday and scrub the floor and wax it. And people knew that, so the night before they throw change on the ground, like nickels or dimes
Yeah.
or something. So I get to pick all them
Oh,
up.
yeah. Because Grandpa wasn't going to pay you?
No, he paid for it. But it wasn't open on Sundays, and that's
Right.
the only place you could buy beer and cigarettes back in
Okay.
those days. So he made a really pretty good living doing that. Think about that. If the
Oh,
only
yeah.
place you could buy beer or liquors in a tavern,
Mhm.
I mean, these grocery stores and gas stations, they didn't have any.
Right.
There was liquor by the drink back in those days.
Right.
So,
So, right there on the main drag,
yeah.
both sides? I mean,
Caesar's Tap.
yeah, okay. And so he had it, you said he had 2 tabs?
Well,
at
he had
time?
one across from where the drugstore was.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's sold out or not. And then the one down the street, the other side of the highway, that was another one. That's the one I remember that I used to go in and work at. But back in those days, they had spittoons, Most kids really know what a spittoon is.
No, right.
Had humidors,
Yep.
with cigars and everything. And shuffleboard, had a big shuffleboard along the right side. And it's just old ornate bar,
Right.
just an old time
Yeah.
bar, just a long bar. And I remember Hamm's was 10 cents a glass, 7-ounce glass, Hamm's beer.
Good stuff, man. That's
I
good.
don't know. Still
So-
the worst beer I've ever had.
Right.
With Blatz.
Yeah, right.
It tastes about the way it sounds.
Yeah.
Blatz is really disgusting.
Right. And I'm surprised, now Grandma and Grandpa used to smoke too.
Yes. Grandpa quit 25 years before he died and still died of lung cancer.
Right.
My mother smoked up to the day she died.
It's a wonder you and Tom
well,
did
that's
not,
true.
don't have,
Yeah,
haven't
that's
had
right.
any problems with that.
No,
And between probably, hanging out at the tavern, and you probably could easily smoke in the drugstore. People were
yeah,
probably
they
smoking all the
smoked
time.
everywhere back in those
Smoking
days.
there, you probably didn't leave it besides going to school or that's probably why you were outside all the time.
Well, and cigarettes were like 25 cents a pack or
Right,
something.
right.
I mean, it just everybody smoked
Yeah.
back in those days. That was any big deal.
Any memories from, when did you remember when Grandpa built the Hillcrest house there at the bottom of
He
the hill?
helped build that.